Hello everyone, today we have new video review, and as you can see, this time we are going to talk about fresh release from Special Hobby. It's AW Meteor NF Mk.14, the last of Night Fighters, this edition is called. And we have a commercial sample here, so it means you will get exactly the same stuff as what you'll see in this video review, so it will be interesting to check what is actually supplied in this kit and which markings are included for this Meteor in 1/72 scale. And in the meantime, I'm checking whether this is a new release, on which kit it is based, because I remember that we were checking one of them before. So yes, it is based on Mk.14 previous release. You can find it in our YouTube channel, and now we have new parts and new decals which will actually help you copy the Night Fighter version. So packaging is quite typical. Note that we have quite beautiful box art here, and kit number is SH72364. And on the side, as usual, we have some information that it's made in Czech Republic and it's a limited edition. It's a top opening box, by the way, so here is what we have inside. There are not that many parts, and let's not forget that this is a 1/72 scale kit, so that's why it is not that surprising, I would say. And all parts, they actually come in this resealable plastic bag, what is actually handy because it will help you store the parts while building this aircraft. And now I'm opening it in order to check all the contents together, so just give me a second to take everything out. In the meantime, let me also remind you that you can support us with a small donation. It's quite an easy thing to do because we have a special PayPal button on our website, so it's just a matter of pressing it and choosing the amount you would like to send us via PayPal, of course. And all this money will be used in order to get new photo and video equipment, or maybe to get some interesting plastic kits which will be reviewed in the same video reviews just like this one. So we are going to start with a gray plastic sprue. Here is the first one, and you can see that these parts are for versions MK Mark 11 and 14. I remember that some of you corrected on the MK, so that's why it's Mark. Now I know it, thank you. So here we have several types of the instrument panels. We also have some cockpit parts as well as the exterior parts, and everything looks cool. Just to remind you, this is a 1/72 scale kit, so you can see comparison with my fingertips. These are quite tiny parts. Be ready for this, because I know some modders were, I would say, somewhat surprised when they saw it in the real life. Next, we continue with a slightly bigger frame. So here we have two fuselage halves. Note that they are molded together with the tail fin and rudder, as well as with this nose cone. So nose cone might be tricky for some modders. You have to be careful around this, and of course it will be important to avoid any unnecessary gaps and seams in such visible area, because otherwise you will have an ugly result. By the way, here you can take a look at the external features. So these are recessed panel lines, and everything looks more or less fine for 1/72 scale model. And if I flip over these parts, inside there is nothing much, in terms of cockpit features, because cockpit will be assembled separately and inserted in between these fuselage halves. Note also absence of any guiding elements whatsoever, so you'll have to be careful while combining these parts together. Do not hurry and check the alignment, especially, again, I will remind you that we have a nose cone pre-molded here. Next, we continue with this plastic sprue. So this one is dedicated to mix of various parts, because we have the cockpit floor here, some parts for the engine gondolas, pilot seats here. And again, I suggest we zoom in as much as we can and start from this corner, because here we have various parts for the interior, let's say, of this aircraft, as well as the external parts. These are actually nozzles for the engine gondolas, and everything looks fine. Here, as we can see, the cockpit floor, which is combined together with a nose, landing gear, wheel well. And if I flip it over, you can check these parts from the opposite side. So these were actually the cockpit walls, and you can see they're nicely detailed, and with some dry brushing and maybe washes, you'll bring out all these features to life. Next, we continue with pilot seats. So for the pilot seats, I'm not that sure. As far as I remember, CMK actually makes the resin upgrade for this thing, so I would rather recommend to get it and improve the appearance of your aircraft cockpit. It won't be an expensive upgrade, so that's why it's worth it. And of course it will be visible because this aircraft has quite large canopy, so you won't be able to hide it in any way. Next we continue with another plastic sprue. This one carries parts for engine gondolas, and note that we even have some features for the engines, so that's why I suggest we zoom in again, start from this corner. So, and I can say that we have quite nicely detailed engine gondolas as well as this landing gear system. Note that nose landing gear is molded together with the landing gear leg. Of course, engine assembly will require some due care in terms of painting, because it will be important to paint it properly in order to look more or less realistic, but landing gear wheels look fine, even though they're molded together with the mud guards, so I'm not sure how they will be replaced. And note that they will have to be assembled out of two hulls. We have guiding elements inside, and they also have the weight effect on them, so it's not just a round circle as some other kits have. And the last gray plastic sprue is dedicated to large wing hulls. So yes, there are only two parts to be combined together. As you can see, all wing mechanization parts are pre-molded, so be careful about it. We can zoom in so that you take a look at the external features. These are recessed panel lines, pretty much the same stuff as what we saw on the fuselage half. And note that attachment points are right on the leading edge, so be careful with it. And of course, pay attention while separating it. If I flip it over, yes, there are no guiding elements, only some guiding pins on the leading edges again. So be careful while combining them. In my opinion, these tiny pins are not enough to combine such large parts, so better be careful about it and do not hurry so that you won't get any seams or gaps in the, I would say, easily notable or visible areas. Next we have separate plastic bag with clear parts. So here everything is quite simple. We have nicely molded parts, there is nothing to complain about. Keep in mind that masks are not included, but you can get them as a separate set, this one. So we'll review it in the separate video and recommend to check it because it's quite an interesting thing to have, and it's quite helpful as well. Next we continue with a plastic bag which carries decal sheet. And as far as I can understand, it comes from Edward. I mean, judging by the font of the text on the bottom, so I can say that it comes from Edward, but who knows, maybe from some different decals brand. And if you know, feel free to write in the comment section. But you can see that printing quality is really good. We have a lot of stencils here, and I think there were some cockpit decals as well. Just give me a second to check it. And nope, I do not see them, surprisingly. No, we actually have the dials here, so they're barely noticeable, but here we have the white dials for the instrument panel, and that's pretty much all. If you want more, you have to get the aftermarket PE and maybe some resin upgrade from CMK. Next we continue with assembly manual, so here we should zoom out a bit. Assembly manual is printed in form of color printed brochure. We have short history note on the first page. Next we continue with the parts map. Of course, all the crosses means that these parts will not be used for this version of the aircraft. Assembly process starts with the cockpit, so you have to use these large panels for the cockpit walls and cockpit floor, and I would say it should be simple. Just be ready to work with all these tiny parts. This might be tricky for some modelers, but if you have all the right tools and glues, it will be, I would say, quite a straightforward procedure. Next we go on with wing parts. So again, you assemble engines here. As you can see, these are not fully detailed engines, but still these sections will be visible through the openings, so that's why they are included here. And note that front rings are actually single piece parts. At least this is replicated as a single piece part. Next we continue with tail fairings, tail wings, and also landing gear parts here. And next is the landing gear parts. And I can also see the nose landing gear installation process with the separate doors. You have to drill some holes for the antennas, of course. There is also an option to open the canopy, of course, so it's also a handy thing to expose the cockpit. And next we proceed with first two marking options. Of course, these are Royal Air Forces, and you can notice it by roundels. But this is a typical British camouflage, and this one is not a typical British camouflage because this aircraft actually comes from 1979. Just give me a second to read what is written here. So it was on test flight. Flight Test Center in France, 1955-1989. And it is displayed as it looked like at La Fête Allée in June 1979. So this marking option was used, and usually it was painted slightly differently. Here we have another interesting option with the red rudder, and of course there is a separate stenciling guide for this model and some ads for different kits, some CMK accessories for this model, and of course other releases which we also reviewed on our YouTube channel, so you can find it easily just by typing the kit number and checking the video review with it. As for this Meteor and also the accessory set, I will remind you, they should be already available, so you can get them both on Special Hobby website. Of course, I will be happy to hear your opinion about such release. Do not forget to write it here in the comment section below. If you like this video, press the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I will see you in the next video review as usual. Thank you for joining me today, and bye!